Hello, guest. I welcome you all to the Aussizz Education Summit 2022. Welcome to another exciting session. This session is going to be about bringing your family members as dependents on your student visa. I think it's a very hot and topical uh, information session. Joining me here is Tirth Panchal. Teeth is the subject matter expert when it comes to subsequent entered visas, as he's been a team leader for student visa team at Aussizz Collins Street office as well as at Aussizz Perth. He comes with a wealth of experience as he has helped countless number of students get their dependents on their subsequent entrant visas. Welcome, Teeth, to the session.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, Deepa. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tirth. I'm one of the student visa consultant here at the Aussizz Group. And thank you so much for joining Aussizz Summit 2022. So in this video, we
Teeth,
are
before we start, let me just announce our giveaways
Mhm.
uh, for the participants. One moment.
Sure, Deepa.
Yeah. So, guys, we would like these sessions to be as engaging as possible. So, we have two kinds of contests for our attendees. One is a bumper contest. Here, whoever leaves the most descriptive review on a Facebook post about this session will be eligible to get great cash prizes. So, all you have to do is a link will come up in your chat box. Please comment under that post with the hashtags Aussizz Education Summit 2022, hashtag Aussizz Group, and you will be eligible to win great cash prizes from $500 to $250. And we also have great giveaways for the most engaging audience member in the chat box. So sound off in the chat box and feel free to ask your questions. So the best questions and the most engaged member would be eligible for free giveaways at the end of the 5-day sessions. You are eligible for free PT, IL, coaching classes, free 485 visa consultations, free one-time PR consultations, as well as a chance to apply for university with scholarship. Of course, you have to meet the eligibility requirement of the colleges. So get into the action, guys, and sound off in the comment section as well as comment on your socials. Thank you. Teeth, you may start your session.
Thank you, Deepa. Um, Welcome, everyone. So thank you for joining this session, and we'll discuss about how you can bring your family members as a dependent on your student visa. Yeah, lots of saying about this visa. When it comes to the dependent visa, lots of students when came to me and asked me that they want to apply for their spouse visa, for their partner's visa, their dependent visa. But the visa that we are going to discuss is about the student subsequent entrant 500 visa. So we'll discuss about who all can apply for these visas, what are the key requirements, what are the documentations that you need to apply for this visa, and at the end of the session we are going to discuss about the case study which is based on the real life scenarios. And also if you have any questions during the session, feel free to write a comment in the chat box, and at the end of the session I'll be able to help you out. So let's discuss who all can apply for this visa. So your partner is your spouse or a de facto partner of the same opposite sex. It, it can be a married or a de facto relationship, and your or your partner's dependent child who is currently and has not turned 18 years of age, that can apply for this visa, student subsequent subclass 500. So either it can be your partner or your child can apply for this visa. Now, when it comes to the requirements, the first one of the key requirement is that the primary applicant must hold a Australian student visa. What I mean by saying is that the primary applicant has to be in the Australia, and he has a valid Australian student visa, which is not expiring very soon, because this student subsequent entered subclass 500 visa takes some time to process, depending upon the what country of passport you are holding. I've seen in some cases that it can grant within a let's say the less than 1 month, and it can takes up to the 1 year. So if your visa is expiring very soon, then you should not apply this visa. Let's say, for example, if you are applying for a student visa extension, that means that you want to apply for student visa to extend your studies. At that time, you can apply for your partner. But specifically, if you are applying for a student subsequent entrant visa and your student visa is expiring very soon, then you should not apply for this visa because it may take some time to be granted. Now, the one of the second key requirement is that you need to have an adequate health insurance. Now, when you apply for this visa, it is recommended that you get a family cover or a couple cover to cover yourself and your family member. Now, then you have enough money to stay here in Australia. Now, this is one of the financial requirement, and we are going to discuss in depth in the later part of the session. Now, you have to be a genuine temporary entrant. Now, what I mean by saying is that when you apply for a student visa, your sole purpose to come here in Australia is just a temporary stay here in Australia, not to stay here and live permanently. So you have to go through the January temporary entrant assessment. You must meet a character requirement, which means you have not involved in any sort of criminal activity here or in your home country. Then you must pass the health examination, and your you must not have any sort of the visa cancellation or any previous application refuse. Now, when as a main applicant, when you apply for a student visa to came here in Australia, and at that time, if you were married or have any dependent child, you must mention them in your student visa application. Now, if you are not going to declare your family member, then when you apply for the student subsequent entrant visa for your family member and the child, chances are very high that your application is likely to get refused because at the time of your student visa application, you did not include your family member in a non-accompanying member of unit. So if you have failed to do that, then you are not eligible to join a primary applicant here in Australia. Now, what if when you got this student visa, you came here and then you get married or in a de facto relationship after coming here in Australia? In that case, when you get married or in de facto relationship, you must inform to the immigration department and update your application so that when the next time when you apply for their student subsequent entrant visa, they know that you have declared that you and your partner are in a relationship or married. So moving on to the next key requirement is the documents. Now, the key requirement for this visa is you need to demonstrate a financial documents, relationship documents. What I mean by saying a relationship document is that if you are married, you need to provide a marriage certificate. And if you are in a de facto relationship, then you need to fulfill the de facto relationships, the requirement. If you have a dependent child, you must provide the child's the birth certificate. And if your child is above certain age, then you need to provide a school enrollment proof for the visa requirement and the parents' consent. Now, along with that, you need to provide a January temporary entrance supporting documents. Now, what I mean by saying is GTE supporting document is that you need to provide enough family ties proof, financial ties proof, and the employment proof. All in together, you need to demonstrate that you have enough incentives to return to your home country after you arrive here in Australia. So we'll discuss all of this now. What are the key scenarios in which you need to or you have to apply for this visa? Now, one of the key scenario is that you were married or in a de facto relationship when you applied for a student visa. But now you want to bring your partner to be here in Australia. So at first place, you decided that only you as a main applicant will came here in Australia. Now, you have decided that you want to bring your partner. So in this case, you have to apply for this visa. Now, you got married after coming here in Australia on a student visa, and you have a valid student visa, but your partner does not have any visa. So you want to apply for this visa. And the third scenario is that you were married and you have a child at first place, but you decided that you do not want to include your child in your visa application due to some reasons. So you and your partner came, but now you want to bring your child to join you here in Australia on a student dependent visa. So these are the key scenarios in which the lots of students came to at Aussizz and discussed that they want to apply for the student dependent visa. Now, if you are a newly married or in a de facto relationship and you want to apply for these student subsequent entrant visa, now in that case, you must provide a marriage certificate. In case if you are married, and if you are in a de facto relationship, you must provide a proof that you are in a de facto relationship. And now what I mean by saying is that you and your partner have a mutual commitment to exclusion of all the others. You have to provide the genuineness of the relationship, and it is ongoing continuing relationship. Now you are living together or don't live permanently apart, and of course you are not a part of your family by related. Now what you can do in this case, that you can write a statement, and along with the statement you can provide a supporting documents. Now you can mention in the statement that how, when and where you meet your partner. It can be a any party, it can be a social gathering where you met your partner first time, and you can mention in the statement that how your relationship further got developed, that after you meet each other, how you or your partner approach to each other, and then how you started to see each other. Then after that, when you or your partner proposed to each other, then later on you got engaged and the married, and how your relationship built up. Then what you do together as a couple, and in case if you have spent a time with apart and together, and you can mention about the significant events in the relationship. Let's say your partner graduated and this was the one of the most happy moment in your life, so you can mention about those sorts of event in your relationship, and you can, by mentioning this one, you can demonstrate that your relationship is genuine and continuing, and what are your future plans as a couple. So uh, this is all you have to mention in the supporting documents, and when you write a statement to the department uh, to prove that your relationship is genuine, and if you are newly married, and if you are in a de facto relationship. So moving to the next point. Now let's talk about the supporting documents, what you can provide. Now if you are in a de facto or a newly married couple, there are the four key pillars on based upon that you can prove that your relationship is genuine and continued. One is a finance, a second one is household, and the third one is a social matter, and the last is the mutual commitment. So when it comes to finance, you can provide the immigration that how you share your the financial matters together. In that case, you can provide your the joint lease documents, joint loan documents, and also the joint major assets such as like the cars, home loan, and the major appliances, and the joint bank account statement. So it has to be under both of your names so that you can prove that you are handling the financial matters together by yourself. Now, when it comes to household, you have to provide a proof that how you handle your household's activities together. It can be under the both names, household bills, under the email address to provide the both of you to provide a living arrangements together, right? And when it comes to social matter, you have to provide a proof that your relationship uh, is a genuine, and everybody knows about your relationship. So what you can provide is that any kind of the joint invitation that you got from your friends or a family member. And also, nowadays, thanks to the social medias, we share a lots of photographs, we tag each other. So you can provide a proof through the social media. Or also, if you travel together, you can provide the tickets, you can provide the hotel bookings. And if you do any kind of the joint sporting or the public event, you can provide that sorts of the proof to as a supporting document to claim your relationship. Now, when it comes to commitment, in the statement, you can write that how you are committed with each other, with your relationship. And you provide a proof that you acknowledge each other's background, family situation, any personal details. And your friends and your family members can help you by writing a statutory declaration. And you can provide that proof as a supporting documents to support your student subsequent entrant application. So as we have now discussed about the relationship criteria and all the documents that we need. So now moving further, we are going to now discuss about the financial requirements, and this is where the lots of students have um, difficulty in arranging the documents, and they are not able to understand fully what sort of the documents that you need. So now, you as a primary applicant, you have to demonstrate that you have a sufficient funds to meet the 1 year of the tuition fees and travel and the living expense. So in the case of the primary applicant has to show the 24,041 as a living expense and the 1 year of the tuition fee depending upon your course. And if you are applying for a dependent to join you here in Australia, your spouse need to show $7,362 as a living expense. And if you are applying for a dependent child, you need to demonstrate $3,152 for a living expense of your child. Now, when it's come to the school age dependent, any child who is above 5, they need to show 8,296 Australian dollars for a to qualify as a school age dependent for an annual school cost. And for the travel, uh, each applicant has to show $2,000 if they are applying from an offshore. Now, when it comes to finance, you can provide a bank statement, loan. It can be an educational loan or a mortgage loan, and a fixed deposit. And or you can show the sponsor's annual income to support your financial requirement. Guys, just to note, if you have any doubts regarding the financial matter, feel free to just drop your queries in the chat box and I'll be able to help you out at the end of the session. So guys, as we have discussed, you need to show the financial requirements to support your application. But if you are applying for a student subsequent entrant, the secondary applicant has to show the 7,362. If you are applying for a dependent child, then 3,152. And if the child is above the 5 years old, then he needs to provide the $8,292 worth of the Australian dollars. So now moving to the next point, after covering the financial requirements, applicant needs to fulfill the GTE requirement. Now, GTE stands for genuine temporary entrant. Any individual who has entered in Australia on a temporary basis. Now, it's an integrity measure. It is designed to scrutinize the genuineness of the applicant. Now, when you apply for a student visa, you mention to the department that your sole purpose is to came here in Australia to study, and after once you finish that study, you acquire all the knowledge, and you are planning to go back to your home country, use that knowledge, and to settle down here. But now GT covers lots of factors. It can be a finance. It's an inclusion of the financial requirements, social ties, family ties, and the other criteria which can affect the student visa application. Now, what are the key requirements when it comes to the GT assessment, how the department assess your profile? The first one is that the applicant's circumstance in the home country, means what was the reason that applicant applied for the student visa, and then later on the spouse applied for the student subsequent visa. Now, what are the potential circumstance here in the Australia? Now, if is there any of the family members relative here in the Australia, how it's going to affect? uh, is there any incentives to stay here in Australia for the main applicant and the dependent? And so that's how they assess. Now, what's the value of the course for the primary applicant, what he is going to do when it comes to the student visa, and also the immigration history. Is there any sort of the previous visa refusal the primary applicant or the subsequent entrant is having, and the any other relevant matters when it comes to the GT criteria. Now, what are the areas of the high relevancy for the GT assessment? First and foremost is the employment. Work history has to be the relevant to the course. If there is any sort of the gap for the primary applicant, uh, then the academic history consistency when it comes to the primary applicant has study choice option. Let's say when the primary applicant came here on Australia to study a master's of business, but later on he changed to some other course such as the diploma in community service, and when you are trying to apply for a student subsequent entrant visa for your spouse, right? So the main applicant also comes into the scrutiny. Department will came to know that the main applicant when came here, he applied for this for the student visa to study this course, then later on he changed the course, and so it also going to affect your spouse student subsequent entrant application, because the department came to know that when you applied for the first time student visa, you wanted to study this course, but now you are suddenly wanted to study this course. So make sure when you are planning to do such things, um, uh, you don't do it at the time of applying for your partner's student subsequent entrant visa, right? So now the another point is the length of the stay in Australia. Now you came here in Australia back in, let's say, 2015. You are jumping from one visa to another visa. Then you applied for a graduate visa, then you again apply for a student visa due to some reasons, and now you want to apply for your spouse subsequent entrant visa. So the case officer will came to know that the main applicant is here in Australia for quite some time, and now he's applying for a spouse student subsequent entrant. So the main applicant will think that the primary applicant wants to stay here on any visa and want to jump from one visa to another visa. So this sorts of the thing also affect your partner's subsequent entrant visa. Also, another factor, social or family ties. You do not have any strong incentives to stay in your home country. Let's say when you apply for a visa, you need to demonstrate that the family ties through mentioning in your application that how many family members are here in Australia and in the India. So if your brother, your sister-in-law, or any family relative here is in Australia, it can affect your student subsequent entrant application. So make sure that you you mention correctly, and you provide evidence that your sole purpose is to came here in Australia is just to support your partner and to finish the study. Now, another point is a travel history. What I mean by saying travel history is that you have not spent enough time in your home country after coming here in Australia. I've met with lots of students. They came here in Australia, let's say in the 2015 after coming here. They never went to their home country, and they are just here jumping from one visa to another visa. And when they came here, and when they tell me that they want to apply for the partners, their spouse, student subsequent entrant visa, right? So department will look into it for the main applicants visa status, and they will check it that means if the main applicant has spent enough time in the home country or not with the partner. So yes, it can affect, and if you are planning to apply for this one, you should consider this factor as well. Now, last point is that the past visa uh, application or the any refusal. When you apply for any visa, you also declare that did you had any previous Australian visa or any refusal or any cancellation or not. So when you do that, department also assess that what was the reason that you applied for the any sort of previous reason, what was the reason for your previous refusal. So if you have any such refusal, you should try to cover up uh, uh, with providing the enough supporting documents, and you must provide a valid reason that why your previous visa got refused and why you are again applying for this visa. Now, we are going to discuss about what are the most common refusal factor when it comes to the student subsequent entrant visa. First and foremost, applicant is not able to provide enough relationship proof. This generally happens when the applicants are newly married or in a de facto relationship. So as we have discussed earlier, you must provide all the supporting documents for uh, to prove that you are in a genuine and in a continuing relationship. Okay, so make sure you provide all the documents. Another key point is that you failed to meet the financial requirement. This generally happens when they try to apply for the spouse and they are not able to meet the requirements for the financial uh, the enough funds that we need. They miss the amount, they miscalculate it, and the case officer thinks that you do not have the enough financial documents. So make sure before you apply for it, you calculate it correctly, how much funds that you require to support your application, and then you lodge the visa with enough supporting documents. Third point is you do not have enough incentives to return to your home country. Let's say main applicant is here, dependent or the spouse or a child is in their home country. Now, spouse is just practically doing nothing at all. The spouse is just taking care of the family. So when you apply for the visa, most likely immigration or the department will think that the whole purpose to bring your spouse is to here uh, and somehow settle down here in Australia. So, uh, but I have seen that when the student's spouse provide a proof such as they are employed, let's say the applicant is currently working with an organization, and the organization is happy to to provide a leave approval, and the sole purpose to come here in Australia is just to spend time with the partner, and after coming here and finishing the studies, they both will go back to their home country and they spend time together over there. In those cases, they get a positive outcome, but if you fail to provide such incentives, then the most likely it can affect your application. So that also covers up the next point, which is the you must provide the social, financial, and the employment ties with your home country to avoid this the refusal or the negative outcome. Now, the last one of the point is that the applicants are not able to provide the school enrollment proof. It it varies from state to state. It so when you want to apply for your child's dependent visa to come here and join in Australia, if the child is above age of 5, you need to provide a school enrollment. So if you're planning to apply for the child's subsequent entrant visa, before that you must uh, find the school to help him enroll, and once you find that enrollment in the nearby school, then you lodge the visa, so that when the case officer came back and asked for it, you can provide it. And the most important point, primary applicant is breaching his student visa condition. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the session, primary applicant first came in, let's say, bachelor's or the master level course, but then the primary applicant changed to another course. And um, so when you apply for uh, your partner's visa, uh, the, the case officer will look into the primary applicant's history, and it can also affect you. So not just with the courses, if the primary applicant is not fulfilling his own student visa conditions, such as if he's breaching any sort of the work right criteria, is not maintaining his adequate health insurance requirement, or he is involved, he also is not involving any character requirement, it can also affect your next application for your partner or your dependent child. So make sure if you're planning uh, to apply for your partner's or your dependent child's subsequent entered visa, make sure you are not breaching any of your current visa condition. Otherwise, it can affect to your next visa application. Now, let's discuss about the case studies. So these all case studies are based on the real life scenarios. So starting with the first one, let's say student A is currently on a student visa in Australia. He came here in November 2021. At that time, he was engaged, but now he's planning to get married in July 2022. So if you are in this situation, what you should do? First and foremost, the once you go to your home country, get married. When you get married, you have to immediately notify to the department that now you are married, and you must uh, send them a form change of circumstance, and along with that you must provide your marriage certificate and your partner's passport, so that they came to know that now you are married. And when you after that, when you apply for your partner's student subsequent entrant visa, they came to know that you're married and your relationship is genuine, and you immediately inform them. So that's what you should do if you are in this scenario. Now, moving on to the next scenario, which is the student B is currently in a de facto relationship, but at the moment the student B only wants to apply for the student visa for himself, and once he comes here, then he wants to apply for the partner's uh, student subsequent entrant visa. So what the student B should do in that scenario? Now, if you are in a situation like a student B, when you apply for a student visa for yourself, you must declare that you are in a de facto relationship with your partner, and you must nominate your partner as a non-accompanying member when you apply for your student visa application. Now, when you come here, settle down, and then you realize that now you want to apply for your partner's student subsequent entrant visa. At that time, you must provide the de facto relationship proof that we discussed earlier, through the by supporting the four main criteria: financial, commitment, social, and the household. Yeah, but now you are staying apart, so you have to provide those documents before you came here in Australia, and you can provide the supporting documents from your friends and the family, writing us uh, providing a supporting documents with the statutory declaration acknowledging the fact that you were in a de facto relationship, but at the moment you are here and your partner is over in back in home country, and it is just a temporary reason that you are not staying together. So make sure when you apply for your student visa as a main applicant, you must declare your partner in that scenario. Now, moving on to the next scenario, which is student C is currently on a student visa and the wife is in the India, and now he wants to apply for the wife's student subsequent entrant. But at the time of lodging the application, the student C mentioned that he is not married. So this happens a lot with lots of students when they applied for their student visa application from an offshore. When they meet their representative and authorized person, they provide information to them that you just mention yourself as a single, and once your visa gets granted, you will be able to apply for your partner's visa. But the fact is that when you apply for a student visa, you must provide the correct information, and when you apply after that, once you come here and you apply for your partner's student subsequent entrant visa, at that time, department will came to know that when you applied for your own student visa application, you mentioned that you were single, and now out of nowhere, you are claiming that you are married and you want to apply for your wife's student subsequent entrant. It is very likely that your application is going to get refused. So the only option in this scenario is that you have to relodge your own student visa application again, mentioning that you are married, including you can include your partner in that application, or you can just include your partner as a non-accompanying member. And specifically, you have to provide a proof that why you were not able to provide the right information at first place, and why you are now acknowledging right now. And you can mention that you were uh, maybe you were not aware about the criteria at the first place, or maybe there was some communication error between your previous representative and you. So in this scenario, yes, you should not apply for your wife's subsequent entrant visa if you have not mentioned in your primary application that you are not married. So now moving on to the next scenario, the student D is currently on a student visa along with wife here in Australia, but their children, who is currently 6 years old and the 3 years old, is in India with their grandparents. But now their children wants to come here in Australia. So what they should do? First and foremost, uh, I assuming the fact that you at the time of applying for a student visa, you have included you have mentioned about the two children as a non-accompanying member, and after that you applied for the student subsequent visa. In that scenario, you have to demonstrate the enough financial um, uh, requirements documents that we mentioned, that for the 3 years it's going to be 3,152. For the 6 years it's 3,152 plus the school annual living cost, along with the school enrollment proof for the 6 years old child. So these are the key documents that you have to provide for um, the children's to uh, support their student subsequent entrant application. So, so guys, that's it for the today's session. And if you are in this scenario, any one of it, and if you are planning to get married, or if you are married and your partner is outside the Australia and wants to come here and join you on your student visa, feel free to reach out to our nearby Aussizz office, and our consultants will be able to help you out. So now, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop in the chat box and I'll be able to help you out. So let's see if you have any questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Teeth. That was wonderfully introspective and engaging. We do have a question from an audience member. Is my voice clear?
Yes, Deepa, we can hear you.
All right, okay. So V is asking, would it be a factor on my visa application if I'm a single mother? I am not married with my son's father. That's the question.
Okay, let's see what we can do in this scenario. No, it's not going to affect that if you are a single mother or married with your partner. So all you have to do, just mention that you are no longer married when you apply for a student visa, and you have to just include your son as a non-accompanying member when you apply for your student visa. And if you are planning to apply for your son along with you, uh, but make sure that your son is under 18. If he is above 18, then he needs to apply for his own student visa application.
Yes. So she can choose the son to be an accompanying or a non-accompanying member, right? Depends on how they want to work it out. But at the same time, there is nothing wrong in being a single mother. You could, if you're married and separated, you can declare as separated. But if you have never married, then you can declare as never married. Am I right, Deep, there?
Yes, Deepa, that's correct. Thank you for that.
Right. Um, and also for overseas student health cover as well, which you have to take, you could take a single parent cover as well. That is
Yes,
the,
Deepa.
there are more specific covers like that, which will help you lessen the cost a bit. Right. Thank you for the question, V. But if you have any subsequent follow-up question to the same scenario, you can ask as well. Teeth, I have a few questions.
Yes.
Until we can allow the audience members to ask us more questions. So, what is the processing time approximately at the moment for subsequent entrant application? That is not the student visa application where you put in combination. I'm talking about a like a dependent student dependent visa application from let's say country like India from a subcontinent.
Uh, as I mentioned earlier in the session, Deepa, that the student dependent application varies from the country to country.
Mhm.
So at the moment, especially for the India, it generally takes 1 to 2 months of the processing time.
Mm-hmm.
But as I mentioned, if the primary applicant is breaching any sort of the condition, or a primary applicant who is currently here in Australia is not compiling the GT criteria, so it
Mm-hmm.
may take time up to 6 months or the more.
Okay. All right. Okay. Wonderful. And um, in terms of you mentioned about school age dependence, like if they're above a certain age, then we have to show $8,000. Is it $8,000? Did you say?
Yes, it is $8,352 that we need to show as a annual school cost when to support the school cost.
Right. Do I also have to still show an enrollment as well from some school that the child is studying, or is that not a requirement because I'm showing that $8,000?
No, it's a requirement that you must provide a proof that a student is going to be enrolled here in Australia in a school if the child is above 5 years old.
Right, right. And also, did we touch on the? I mean, it could be a little informative for our audience if we touch a little bit on de facto relationship as well. Many students would also be in a de facto relationship with their partner, not and would be prospectively maybe enter into marriage later, but they've not made that decision now. So, what sort of requirements they must have to comply with to apply?
Uh, as we have mentioned in the session, they can provide writing a statement that how the relationship begins, how it form in the later part of the relationship, what are the plans, what the activities they are planning to do, and along with that, they can provide a proof that before the main applicant is planning to come here in Australia, how that relationship was in terms of the finance, household, commitment, and the social matters. So
But is there a duration they have to live together?
uh, it it has to be minimum of the 12 months
Yes,
together, that they have to show that they have lived together for minimum 12 months,
yes.
and they have to provide a proof. Let's say they can provide a joint lease agreement,
Mm-hmm.
and they do not have any sort of the joint lease agreement, they can provide a statutory declaration from a landlord who was
Right.
leasing them the property, or the acknowledging acknowledgement from the friends or the family members on the statutory declaration along with the supporting documents. They can claim that they live together for at least 12 months.
Well, thank you. That was very informative. Guest, if you have any questions around de facto relationships and applying as a de facto partner, please sound off on the comments and Teeth will be able to answer the questions in a more specific manner. Um, do we have any more questions for the session? Yes. Can you tell me present scenario timing period of student visa after medical? I mean, Akash, so that means you've submitted the medicals, right? Could you tell us from which country, what is your the country of passport that you hold, so that we could give you a better judgment?
Akash, if you have applied a student visa from India, and if your medical is completed, then it could be within a 10 to 18 days that most likely you will receive an update from the Department of Home Affairs regarding your student visa application. So just wait for a couple of more days and you will be able to come to know.
Right. And Akash, if you also are in a scenario where your course is also about to start, but you've not received your visa, then you could use the department's technical support form. I can drop the links in the comment to sort of expedite your process. You would have to give specific information about your visa case in terms of your visa file number, and you have to just fill an online form. And we've noticed that wherever the department has exceeded the standard processing time, or the course is about to start but the department is not responding to the file, whenever we raise a technical support inquiry, then that does give us some results too. I would be dropping the link in the comment. So you lodged your file on the 29th, medical done on the 31st. I think you are very much nearing a grant, because these days Department of High Commission in India is processing files very fast. So you just have to hold on to it. But if you're not getting it, let's say by what Teeth said as a timeline within 15 to 18 days, I would definitely encourage you to do to raise an escalation in the technical support form. I'll be dropping the link in the comment here. Thank you, Akash, for your query. Okay, we will wait for more questions. Guys, sound off in the comment section. You could discuss your individual subsequent entrant visa, student dependent visa scenarios. Thank you. A pleasure. Did we touch on the cost for the student for the subsequent entrant visa? If
The
you could shed
student
some light
support
on that. Yeah.
visa will cost you $460.
Okay. And if there is a dependent child involved?
In that case, it will cost you $160.
Okay. Right. I'm just going to drop the link shortly. Are there any other questions, guests, that you have in relation to student dependent visas? I'm sure the case studies that you've discussed are really unique, that would help students who are in similar scenario to relate to it. You can find the recording of this session soon enough in our official event page and also on our YouTube channel. It will be all up next week. So Just in case if you missed any little detail, you could go back to our video and you could hear Teeth's expert advice. Any more questions? Okay, I'm just trying to post the link here. There you go. Right. All the best, Akash, for your visa. Okay, I guess we are wrapping this session up. And just like Mr. Akash over here, as well as the guest V over here, uh, whoever had the most queries, as well as whoever engaged with the session, will be eligible for free giveaways from us. You can get free PT, IELTS, CCL coaching. Um, uh, oh, there is a question. Can we change course once reaching in Australia? Teeth, would you like to take that question?
Um, Akash, in this scenario, means if you are planning to apply for your partner's student subsequent entrant visa, I would recommend you should not change it at the moment. But yes, if you are a single and if you are planning to do it, then yes, of course, after coming here in Australia, once you settle down and after studying there for at least 1 to 2 semesters, then you can apply for the change of course.
Right. Obviously, there are a few criteria around it. Akash, I assume you're coming on a master's course. So if you are to change, you could only change to a master's course. Um, if you are coming on a bachelor's course, then you could either change to a bachelor's or a diploma leading to bachelor's, but you can't downgrade yourself too much. And at the same time, there is also another clause that you must at least study 6 months with your current course provider. If not, you must get a release letter. Although we can explore what is the possibility of getting a release letter and all that, it depends on your own individual scenario too. So please reach out to us. I'm just going to drop Pete's email address in the comment section, and you could reach out to him to discuss your case specifically. Yes, I'm single, applied for master's project manager. Yes, so you can only change to another master's course. It could be in a different domain, um, but it should be a master's course at least. Um, Right. There's one more question here, Teeth. Can I apply for PR after finishing masters? I guess we need more context here. Could you please elaborate which masters? Okay, we're waiting on a reply. I'll just tell you, in terms of after finishing your masters, what would be your visa option? So, Teeth, you would agree with me here. They can get post-study work, right, for at least 3 years.
Yes, nowadays,
Yeah.
thanks to the recent update from the Department of Home Affairs, now if you have studied master's degree here in Australia, you can apply for the 3 years of the post-study visa.
Right. Okay. So that's a guaranteed one, at least as long as you meet the criteria for TR, which is not really complicated. V's further question is, can I apply for PR after finishing Masters in Public Health? How many years would it take? So we just full disclaimer here, we are education consultants, so I'm not a qualified immigration agent, but having said that, we work in a company where there are about 35 plus migration agents, so we do have technical domain knowledge when it comes to this. So, see, Masters in Public Health is a complicated degree because the two occupations that you can nominate under would be something called medical administrator, one, and then the other one is called health promotion officer. Now, both of these things are at a really higher upper hierarchical level when it comes to the uh, medical industry. So, for example, if you have to become a medical administrator in a hospital or a healthcare facility, you're managing a team of doctors and healthcare professionals. You know, that means you're the head authority when it comes to run a health facilities operations, right? So imagine you completing a course and immediately you get some amount of work experience, let's say even 1 year, 2 year. You cannot get work experience as a medical administrator, because it would take years and years to climb that hierarchy, right? But you only have a 3 years post-study work, right? So most students, now the reason I'm bringing up work experience is that because so you are a licensed doctor, that is a good point, but you would need to adopt to the Australian healthcare system and all that, and really progress to a level where you become a medical administrator, which is really a work experience where you need at least 10 to 15 years of expertise. I don't see you reaching that position just because how with the way the system is, right? So my point is, the reason why I'm bringing work experience here is that before to apply for PR, you need a document called skill assessment, right? Now, the skill assessment authority, that's like a token, that's your passport to apply for PR, the preliminary mandatory document that you would need, right? So what happens is that when the skill assessment authority is BETASIS, and they require at least uh, 1 year of post qualification work experience as a medical administrator or as a health promotion officer, right, in Australia. And you can try it, but it would be, I would say, it is a very humongous task to get that 1 year experience immediately after graduating a master's in public health at such a higher hierarchical position as a medical administrator or as a health promotion officer. So I would suggest to switch to, if you're really, if PR is your ultimate aim, I would really suggest to switch to a Master of Social Work or a Master of Laboratory Medicine. These two courses doesn't hinge on the fact that you need work experience to get PR, to get your skill assessment or for your PR. You can accumulate your points for PR through other points pathway, like scoring 80 in English, having a partner, studying in a region area. Anything can be the combination, but it doesn't hinge on the fact that you have to get work experience to meet the skill assessment requirement. Um, well, that's the overall gist of this. So I've told you whether my advice for you would be to, with Masters of in Public Health, with the two occupations requiring really heightened experience. My advice, if the ultimate aim for PR would be, ultimate aim for studying would be PR, then shift to a Master of Social Work, which is interdisciplinary, has great career prospects, as well as has PR opportunities across any state in Australia as well. So I hope you found that information helpful. But if you need more information, you can write to us. And we also have a Filipino consultant called Michelle. And I'm just going to leave her email address. You can contact us and we could elaborate further on what we were talking about. Right. Thank you. Um, Great. That was a really engaging session. Guys, our next session is, we have several more exciting sessions coming up, lined up for you. Thank you. My pleasure. So, um, our next session, I'm just going to drop a link about our next sessions that are coming up. So, one session is about OSHC and OBHC, health insurance and its benefits, how to get the best out of your health insurance policies. And we also have a session about internships, how internships can help you in with your studies in Australia as well as your future employment prospects. I'm just dropping the link to those sessions in the comment box. So for the health insurance one, you could join this link. And for the session on internships, you could join the other one. Thank you so much. It was wonderful chatting with you all. Please check out our other exciting sessions as well. And thank you, Teeth, for the very engaging presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Deepa. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.